Hey, what's up, guys? This is Steven from Techmaker.tv. In this episode, we're going to start looking at how we can view user activity in a real-time way with ActionCable and Rails 6. In the last episode that I did, we built out this cool messenger-style chat room app, and you can see here that now we've added this little green icon indicating that a user is online, and if I close out, it'll immediately tell me that they've gone offline. So that's what I mean by user activity. There's plenty more that we'll get to in future episodes, like when you start typing, it'll show somebody is typing and so on and so forth. But for now, we're just getting it set up so that we can show who's online and who's not. Just a few quick notes before we jump in. Check down in the description for a link to the video that I just mentioned and a couple of others related to ActionCable and getting started with ActionCable if you're new to this. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content and you want more of it. I'm creating videos every single day, sometimes more than once a day. So leave a comment below if you have any video suggestions as well. I read every single one and try to reply to all of them. And seriously consider any suggestions that you make. Last, I am working on some free ebooks and open source projects and that sort of thing. So always check down in the description for free stuff that we're working on and giving away. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump in. So I'm over here on rubyonrails.org, and they have an example for looking at user appearances, as they call it, with ActionCable. I was reading through this, and some stuff became more clear to me about how ActionCable actually works, and I want to try to build out a kind of a similar thing. We'll probably end up actually copying and pasting some of the code. But let's take a look at just a couple lines here. So you have this appear method and this away method in the subscriptions appearance channel. And it's telling you here that this calls appearance channel appear on the server. And same thing for away. And so if we look back up here in the actual application cable channel, appearance channel class, you can see there's a couple of methods that correspond to that. So what's actually happening here is that the appearance channel JavaScript can essentially execute remote procedure calls on the server if we use this syntax where we say this.perform. So I want to set up something similar on our app that we built last Friday. If you haven't seen it yet, we built out a full chat room app, which we'll be working on here. I'll link to it down in the description if you want to check that out. But yeah, so let's go ahead and see what we can get going here. Okay, so I'm back over here in my terminal, and I'm on a new branch that I just set up called feature/activity, which is where I'm going to push this. So if you want to check this out, I'll link to the code base down in the description. But let's go ahead and create a new channel, and we'll say Rails G channel. And I'm going to call mine activity. And so that should set up a couple of files for us over here. So let's check those out. Okay, so let's start by just looking at our activity channel.js that just got generated. So whenever we load the JavaScript, essentially what we're going to do is just create a subscription to the activity channel. And then we have these sort of built-in lifecycle methods here. So we're going to just console.log connected to the activity channel. And let's run our server and just see if this is actually working. So we can see right here that it's only streaming from the room channel. And if we go over to our browser, let me refresh this. You can see here that it's telling us we're only connected to the rooms channel. So why is that? So this is going to reference the previous episode a bit, because what we did in order to not broadcast to every single room at the same time was it's room channel maybe. Right here, we removed every other subscription before we created this subscription. So we're actually sort of hurting ourselves now. because we're removing the subscription to the activity channel that we just created. So you'll have to check out the other video for a more in-depth explanation, but essentially what we were trying to do here is, and I don't remember if I already said this, but I'm going to link to that other video down in the description if you want to check it out. But what we're doing here is basically whenever you would change rooms, you would still have a connection to all the other rooms. So let's actually connect the subscriptions to the window so we can play with these guys just a little bit. And let's go back over here and refresh. So what we're going to need to do is a little bit more fine-grained approach. So subscriptions, so we can do subscriptions.subscriptions, get the first subscription, and you can see here we have this identifier. And so I'm going to say, I think I should do json.parse, and then we can do .channel. Okay, so what we can do here is instead of unsubscribing from all channels, what I want to do is say if json.parse, and we'll do subscription.identifier and what was it? So subscription.identifier, and then we'll do .channel equals room channel. Then we want to do this, right? Makes sense to me. So let's comment these out for now, and let's go refresh our page and see what we get. So now it's telling us we're connected to one, which is the let's say room channel for clarity. But it's telling us we're connected to the room channel and the activity channel now. So now it's working. That's perfect. Cool. So let's go back to the example on Rails guides really quick. So if you look up here in the appearance channel, they're making use of this current user, and we don't actually have a current user right now. So let's set one up. And they did that way up earlier here. So that happens in this connection class. So you can set up this identified by current user. So let's just see if this works how I think it does. So I'm copying that. I'm going to put it in this connection class here. And we're not going to have a encrypted user ID in the cookie. We don't have anything in the cookies right now, but let's just stick a user ID in the cookies in the application controller. So back over where we set this in our current user, just above the end here, let's just stick a cookies user ID equals at current user.id. Okay, so now that's all saved. So we have current user is user find by ID cookies ID. Okay. Then what I'd like to do is, instead of just saying that somebody connected to the activity channel, let's see if we can say who connected to the activity channel. This is not actually what I want to do. This is the wrong file. We need to go into activity channel. Let's close some stuff. Activity channel.rb. So let's see here. So activity channel. So we need to stream from activity channel. And then what else? So if we go back over here for just a second, how do they do this? So we have a connected. So in the connected method, we could call back into and call a method up here. So let's call appear actually. So let's just see. I haven't done this exactly before. So what I'm going to do is just say appear, and then what I would like to do is say something like ActionCable server.broadcast. So I had to uncomment the activity channel because we're going to subscribe everybody to the activity channel so that we can make broadcasts. So we want to broadcast to the activity channel. We just want to put a message, and then in here I'm going to say current user.username has joined. And I'm not sure that's going to work exactly how I'm imagining, but so let's say what we want to do is now open up activitychannel.js, and what we want to do in here is let's bump this down here, because what's going to happen is, well, let's write this out first. So what we want to do is say this dot what is it? I think it's this dot perform. So we're going to say this dot perform appear. So what we're doing is we're calling the appear method back on the activity channel, right? So this dot perform appear, and then connected to the activity channel should just say console.log data.message. So what's going to happen is, in theory, this calls the appear method, that broadcasts to the activity channel, current user username is joined, and then down here that message should be printed out with this received. Okay, so let's go refresh and let's see what happens here. It's going to take just a second. Flying Intern 792 is joined. So let's do a quick sanity check here. Oh, that's not what I wanted, not slash 3000. I don't need slash anything, just localhost 3000. So now I get over here, Dangerous Highway 117 has joined. Okay, and if I refresh here, you can see that it's printing out the proper username for each one. So that's really cool. Okay, so I've just closed a couple of things and moved a few things around. What I'm going to do, what I'd like to do, is say something like span, and let's call this like class equals active. No, not active. Maybe like status. Sorry, let's say activity status dash status, and then let's say user dash, and then we'll do message.user.id. Okay, and in this span tag, I'm just going to hit Alt-8 on my keyboard, which makes a dot. Okay, and then what we're going to do is go into our application.scss file and then say activity status, and then I'm going to say font size is like 20 pixels. Let's see what this looks like. Just trying to make a circle. Okay, so that's kind of close. I'm going to paste in a couple of styles I was just playing with in the browser, just to kind of line it up a little bit more like I want. Okay, so that's maybe a little bit better. Could be like maybe -5 here. See what that looks like. Just trying to get it a little bit more centered. Now that needs to be more -7. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone after that. So what we want to do is make this like red if you're offline and green if you're online. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm actually first and foremost going to go grab some different colors really quick. So I like to get the colors from this website, Materialize CSS. I don't know why, I like it, and it's got a lot of options and they kind of automatically play pretty well together. So instead of red, let's make this color, which is a light gray. And then we're going to say and dot online, and we're going to make the color green. So let's get like this accent green, which is kind of poppy here. Okay, so let's X out of that. Let's see what it looks like here. So it should be some light gray circles. Okay, that's a little better. And then let's figure out how to set people online. Okay, so if we head back over to our activity channel.js, right here we're console logging a message. And we don't really want to do that. What we want to do is, first of all, let's do, wrong button. Sorry about that. Let's go over here to our activity status. And so here, instead of activity status user-id, I'm going to say user-id-status. And what I'm going to do is broadcast just a user ID here. So on up here, I'm going to say user ID is current user.id. Then down in here, I'm just going to have a data user ID. So I'm going to do, I don't think I have jQuery installed here, so I need to document.get elements by class name. And I want to get the elements that are essentially, let's do the backticks, and then we'll say, oh, what is it? It's user dash, and then data.userid dash status. And then we'll say let elements equal that. And then we need to add a class to all of these elements. Okay, so then I think we should be able to do elements.forEach element, and then do element.classList.add. And then we want to add the class, what do we call that over there in the CSS? Online. So we'll add the class online. Okay, so let's refresh and see what's going on over here. Okay, so nothing happened, so let me just check here. For each is not a function. Okay, hold on one second. Let's just debug this really quick. Okay, so what do I have in elements? I have an HTML collection. Okay, so for each is not a function on an HTML collection, so I have to basically just loop through these things. Just a side note, the reason I'll leave these little parts like this in the video for the most part, unless, you know, I'm just like way off on a tangent and it takes me forever, is because I think it's really important to learn how to introspect your code to figure out what's going on. So I don't memorize everything, and especially with JavaScript, I primarily work in Ruby, so I have a lot more things memorized. But if you know how to kind of go in and play with things, you can really quickly figure out like what's going wrong and so on and so forth. So it's important to know, you know, what you're doing, but like I just, you know, don't always know everything, and I find it pretty important to just be able to check it out and figure it out for yourself. So we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way and say for var I equals 0, I is less than elements.length, I plus plus, and then we'll say elements I dot class list dot add online. So let's refresh now and see what kind of problems we run into. Okay, cool. So now you can see up here that this flying intern 792 is online. Okay, so now let's play with this a little bit and see what happens. So I've got flying lion 232 over here. We're going to go into room 1. We're going to say hello. And you can see straight away there's an issue because that's not showing up on this view. So let's look at how can we fix this? So what we've got that we added is this business, right? We need to go into mine and theirs, right? Because that's where these things are happening. So we're probably going to refactor this a bit because this is a bit wonky. We're definitely breaking the dry rule, as they say. But the truth is, in actual fact, I guess I don't really care about that so much. Like, I think that that's sort of an overblown thing that people teach you early on because it's easy to understand. I tend to leave some repetitive code around until I see the real abstraction. I don't think it's as critical to eliminate it as soon as you see it. I think it's important to kind of let it hang out until you really understand what it is and then remove it. But that said, let's go ahead and get this implemented as best we can. Okay, so we've pasted this into the mine one. Have we pasted it into the theirs one? No, we haven't, and I did not save the mine one. Okay, so the only difference between mine and theirs is this word me, which is interesting to think about. So we're going to come back again in another episode and do some refactoring on this, and I'll show you how I might go about that. But what do we need to do now? So if we open this back up and we just refresh everything, let's refresh over here too. So that's interesting. It's only telling me that flying intern is online. Let me try this. Actually, no, it said the right thing. Just kidding, I missed it. It's here, flying line is online there, but now it's saying he's offline here. So I have an assumption that I'm willing to make, which is that if a message comes through, it comes through from someone who's online. So we can actually just add the status online directly in here because I think it's reasonable to say that if a message just came through, that person must be online, right? So let's get all of our browsers back open again and do a real refresh here. Okay, so we can see that now, okay, flying intern is online, flying line is online. Okay, so now it's coming through that I'm online. Now I'm online. Okay, so what happens now if I close one of these? So it's still telling me that flying lion is online, and clearly he just left, so that's sort of the next bit we need to fix. Okay, so let's go back to our activity channel.rb, and let's take a look at this unsubscribed. So what I want to do, or what I want to try rather, is let's try to broadcast that. So it's broadcast to the activity channel, and let's say that the status is disconnected. And then over here, let's say the status is online. Well, actually, let's call this offline. And then over here in our received data, let's just console.log data. Okay, and then so we're console logging this thing. Let's refresh here. And so right here we have connected room channel and we get our status online. So let's open up a new incognito window. So we got user ID 15 online, and let's close the window and see what happens. User ID status offline. Okay, so in here, I'm going to say if user ID, if, what am I doing? Data.status is online, do this, else, let's remove the class. classless. I think I can do .remove like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. So I'm going to refresh this, and then I'm going to, do I still have my incognito thing open? No. Okay, so new window, localhost 3000. Let's jump into random, and let's type something. So now we have Ancient Master 580 is online. Let's close this, and immediately that goes away. That's really cool. Back into random. Okay, really, really cool. And if we close, obviously that's just going to turn gray straight away. So that's really awesome. So let's compare this just for a second to what they were doing over here. So they're obviously doing a lot more event handling. So I'm going to review this a little bit more in depth. So what we basically learned in this episode is that we can essentially call remote procedures on the server, and we're calling a remote procedure whenever we connect. We're calling this perform up here. We're not calling anything because we're not doing any disconnections from the server. We're just calling or utilizing the unsubscribed functionality on the server, which handles the case where somebody leaves the browser. So what would be nice, potentially what we would want to do is change this to be idle. So maybe have like a blue icon or something if you go into a different tab maybe. So I'm going to think about that a little bit. I think I'm probably going to make a few more episodes on top of this system because I think it's kind of coming together pretty nicely. So I'll probably do a really short one on how to handle idle situations where people leave and it maybe makes like a light blue icon or something like that. We've also got some real-time stuff to fix over here. So obviously we have more than 3 members. If I refresh the page, it's going to turn to 5. So we should update that number as we go. If somebody added a new room, it would not appear until we refresh the page. So that would be nice if you could have that automatically appear. So there's a lot of stuff we could do, and I'm going to just keep building onto this. So I'll probably put together a YouTube playlist as I go ahead, and obviously keep updating the GitHub repo, which there's a link to down in the description. With all of that said, if you are liking this sort of content, leave a comment below and let me know. If you got any suggestions for videos or topics you'd like to see me cover, also leave a comment down in the comments section, and I will respond to everything that you leave down there. So yeah, hopefully you have already subscribed to the channel, but if you haven't, definitely go ahead and do that, and I will talk to you in the next video.